Let me know when you hit go live. Oh, there we are.
We are.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup, coming to you live, your one-stop shop for all news West Asia. My name is Esteban Carrillo, and I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, Karim Shami and Sharmin Narwani. Thank you so much for being here. Please make sure to hit that like button as soon as you arrive. It is really, really important, not just for this episode, but for the channel as a whole, to continue to grow, to continue to get as many viewers as possible. We really got to fight against the algorithm, guys, and we need your help for that. Subscribe also if you haven't. Check out the memberships here on the channel. And of course, above all, please check out in the description below a link that will take you directly to our Patreon page where you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. We really, really need your support. Please help, please support independent journalism. And, I think there's many things to talk about. We're not going to dive into the main topic of this episode just yet. We want more people to arrive. But in the meantime, we have to discuss what's been happening in the south of Lebanon, especially now that we have the one and only Karim Shami back with us. He can maybe walk us through some of the latest developments because, and I mean, just to give a bit of context, yesterday, the Lebanese resistance broke the record for the number of operations they launched in 24 hours. At this point, observers, journalists who are on the ground in the south are all saying this is the most fierce we have ever seen Hezbollah fight. This is not comparable to anything before. And, I think in Beirut, if I'm not mistaken, Karim, I think it's around 8 p.m.
Yes.
As of like an hour, 2 hours ago, I was seeing it reported that the resistance forces already launched 100 rockets. They did the same yesterday. Yesterday, they talked about targeting 21 Merkava tanks and destroying a good number of them, of like ambushes. And just one last thing I wanted to add is the reaction from the northern settlements, because we have also seen, at least I've seen, two mayors from northern settlements in the occupied Galilee going on TV and essentially bawling their eyes out, saying, "You have abandoned us. If you cannot help us, just tell us and we will leave, because this is an entire disaster what's happening here in the north." So nevertheless, I think I've given enough context. Karim, why don't you walk us through some of what has been happening in the south of Lebanon?
Yeah, as you said, Esteban, yesterday, Hezbollah said that they did 95 operations against the Israelis in the span of 24 hours, which is a huge number. Yeah, and many people that talk about Hezbollah and support Hezbollah, they support him because they were usually able to do like 10, 15 operations a day. That's how Hezbollah gathered all their supporters, you know what I mean? But now it's different. You're seeing 95 operations. They are operating like an army 24/7. And also the range of the attacks in the past 24 hours. Hezbollah launched 10 missiles into Haifa yesterday, and today they launched into Naharaya, and they launched also into northern Haifa. So the scope is, or the rate of the operations is really accelerating very fast. And as I said, including me, nobody expected Hezbollah to do what they are doing now, including me and the Israelis, of course, because from their statements, you will feel that. And as you mentioned, the video that went viral is for the mayor of Kiryat Shmona, and he said that now Kiryat Shmona, if 10,000 people left Kiryat Shmona, and he said if this continues, only 10 people will remain in Kiryat Shmona. And we know that Kiryat Shmona, it was a town or a city that holds 60,000 Israelis. Now the numbers, according to the Israelis, is around 20,000. So the majority left the area. And I want to share this image also on our screen so people will, so I can explain better. Sure. So here is the operations of Hezbollah. This map is the official map. It was released by them. It's very huge. Let me control it more. So here we can see where the operations, the concentration of the operation. The Israelis are trying to enter from here and from here. If you remember last week, we explained this. It's still the same place. And 2 days ago, I also said that they are trying to enter from the south, mid-south, which is this area. So most of the operation and the Merkava tanks that they targeted happened here in this place. Hezbollah said that they targeted 21 Merkava tanks, in addition to a couple of armored vehicles. And of course, if we see, they always target these areas. These areas are highly concentrated in air defenses, and especially the Iron Dome. And also, we see here the Kiryat, which is a very political and military important location, and they also are targeting it. And of course, the airplanes or the drones of Hezbollah are constantly hovering or flying above the Israeli skies. So yeah, if we can see, these are all the operations that they did. This also map does not include the missiles that were fired into Tel Aviv, because this happened like 10 minutes after this map was released. So according to many people, and also according to the service of the Israelis, Hezbollah is doing very well, and nobody expected that Hezbollah will have such a firepower. As you said, till now they fired 100 missiles or more, and also today they had direct hits, especially in Nahariya, this area here. Just a few minutes ago, the Israelis announced that one Israeli died in this area, and around 20 people were injured, and also the electricity was shut down in this area due to the attacks of Hezbollah. Yeah, that's what we can say. And just to let everybody know, this map shows where also, yeah, in this area is where Israelis issued evacuation for all the people. So this area, according to the Israelis, the whole area is includes their military operations, and also till now they are only advanced here and here. And also regarding, to give also more information about the operations that happened in the since yesterday, I will share this tab. Here we can see that Hezbollah, I know it's in Arabic, this number, this is the Merkava, these are the tanks. They target 21 tanks, and of course there's video, we can put it. And now they said also in a few minutes they will publish another video. These are bulldozers, D9, that are manufactured by Caterpillar. They destroyed the 3. So these are the most significant things that they did. And also they confronted, at zero distance, the Israelis 57 times.
Great breakdown. Thank you, Karim. That was also, just very quickly, thank you to everyone we had a few super chats. So thank you so much. Go ahead, Charmaine.
I just want to, I got excited about the detail that Lebanese journalist Marwa Osman posted today. I can't remember, it might have been Facebook. She talked about how the Lebanese resistance lured an entire Israeli enemy armored company into a textbook ambush on the Taibe-Kantara axis. This is last night. Last night or
yes, okay,
last night. The day before, on Tuesday, Israel's 7th Brigade sent a remote-controlled bulldozer to probe Hezbollah's defense lines in an area. But the Hezbollah fighters spotted it and let it pass, okay? Anticipating that the Israelis would think that area is clear and they could come into it, uncontested. Wednesday then, at 6:50 p.m., the Israelis came fully into the trap. A full armored column of Merkava tanks and D9 bulldozers rolled single file towards Kantara. The resistance waited until every vehicle had entered the kill zone, and then they attacked. So apparently, she says, guided missiles slammed into the middle of the column, which took out immediately 4 Merkavas and a D9 bulldozer, cutting the column in half. And then the rear platoon popped smoke to hide themselves and camouflage themselves. It didn't work. Missiles found them too. All 4 tanks burned. And then I think they tried to, the lead, the front part of the platoon tried to push through into Kantara anyways. More missiles came, another D9 bulldozer and 2 more Merkavas gone. Anyways, that toll was 10, but I think I've been reading, 10 Merkavas gone, that operation, but I've been reading the number 20 in a lot of places, but that's over the last 2-3 days, right?
No. The image that I put it is for the past 24 hours, Sharmeen. They said they targeted 21.
I'm seeing right now, and since I was checking to see if I could find the tweet from Marwa, but actually what I found is she's saying that since the start of the aggression on March the 2nd, now is 60 Merkava tanks. 22 of them were yesterday, and 7 D9 bulldozers, 9 armored personnel carriers. And this is exactly why you see the mayors essentially crying on TV, no?
But then, I mean, what then happens to the surviving occupation soldiers, right? They abandoned their vehicles, tried to evacuate casualties while artillery was pounding them and their command posts in the village they'd left, I guess, Muhaisibat. Karim, correct me on the pronunciation of that.
I think so, Sharmeen. I don't know this village, to be honest.
Okay. So this was so they were leaving from Muhaisibat to go to Kantara. Apparently, this column. Anyways, that kind of granular detail is kind of, that actually that's how Politico would write it, right? Like the nuclear scientist was riding in his car when suddenly, out of left field, came a motorcyclist, right? This was the kind of granular detail that is hard to get in media.
I just want to mention that the maps and the numbers that I put and the statement that Sharmeen said, these are official statements from the resistance. So they are 100% correct and they are trustworthy. And just now I want to put a video that was released 2 minutes ago for our viewers. Hopefully we'll be the first to see them. We will see the video together. This video was just published, and in the title they say that they targeted a Merkava tank. Another one. This is another incident in another place.
Wait, 60 tanks gone since in the last month?
March the 2nd. No, March since Hezbollah entered. So yeah, kind of almost a month, right?
I mean, how many tanks do the Israelis have?
As many as U.S. taxpayers are
willing to pay for. Because I mean, we were getting stats over the last 2 years that Hamas had taken out also some, and the Lebanese resistance as well. So one wonders, where do they keep them? The country is this small.
If we want to talk militarily, Hezbollah are clear sometimes in their statement. They say they targeted Merkava, and sometimes they say we destroyed Merkava. If we count it, it will be less than 60 destroyed, because also Merkava has a good defensive mechanism, meaning that the external body of Merkava is full also with explosives. So if you hit it in a certain places, the explosive will force the projectile outside, protecting the people inside. What Hezbollah is saying is that in this case, Hezbollah doesn't even let them to take the tank or to take the bodies, except if there's like a very high firepower from the airplanes and drones. They, as we say, they do like carpet bombing around the site so they can take out the soldiers. I think when this war ends in the south, we will see many Merkava tanks just sitting there.
Yeah.
There's an angle here that I actually just want to ask Karim very quickly, because I saw I'm going to put it now on screen so you guys see what I'm talking about. That's not what I wanted to put. Right. There we go. This is Diab Abu Jaja, the director of the Hind Rajah Foundation, who yesterday in reporting this said one of the units that was taken out by Hezbollah, or one of their tanks that was taken out, was the 401st Infantry, which is the same company that is responsible for the death of the murder of Hind Rajab and her family in Gaza last year. So I don't know if you heard anything about that, Karim. As I said, this is being reported by the head of the Hind Rajab Foundation.
You know, there's many news and many countries that you should follow. This info didn't come into me. I didn't read it. But yeah, we read, what I read is that yes, many fighters or many soldiers that fought in Gaza are now in south of Lebanon. And I saw posts from the Israelis saying, enough. For instance, my fiance fought for you in in Gaza. Now you're sending him to the south. That's what I came across, but I didn't come across this information.
And also in terms of like the vulnerability of these tanks, weren't we, I think, in year one of, after the genocide, I mean, when the genocide on Gaza began, and then we had the Northern Front also engage, didn't we then see the Almaz missiles, the Iranian engineered or made Almaz missiles that I don't know if this was for tanks or for armored vehicles of another kind, but their benefit, the Almaz missile, was to hit from the top, I think, at a vulnerable place that tanks were not used to people hitting. Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure.
We wrote about
the first video that I put is the Almaz missile.
Okay.
I can put it again so people can understand.
Let's be spare with that because the algorithm doesn't help. And by the way, speaking of algorithm, guys, we have almost 500 people watching, but only about 200 likes. That is very unfair. Come on, we most of our team is working out of a war zone. We truly do need your support, and so please hit that like button. If you're here, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't appear anywhere. Just please hit that like button. Help us out here. And I don't know, Karim, is there anything else about Lebanon? Because like you were saying, right, like there's so much news.
Of course, they are targeting left and right in the south, even like civilian houses that for people, even I know, they have no connection to Hezbollah or they are like not even like religious, and they are destroying such houses. Regarding Lebanon, I just want to say, unfortunately, till now, the Israelis killed 1,116 civilian, and they injured 3,229 civilian also, and they destroyed till now thousands of buildings, and they were proud about it. Today they published a video of like compilation of them downing residential buildings in Beirut specifically, and they didn't even put stuff on the border. And also what's very interesting to see, usually the Israeli army, they release like 2, 3, 4 posts per day. Yesterday, because of what happened, the speaker of the army and the page of the Israeli army in Arabic, they posted several videos and several news just to counter what's happening in the south and to counter what the statements of Hezbollah that they released. So that's also worth noting, and also worth noting. I'm not saying that it might not happen, but yesterday regarding what happened in the south, plus that Hezbollah sent missiles to Haifa and to Tel Aviv, and also today to Naharaya. Till now, we didn't see like response from Israel, from the Israelis as they usually do. Usually, if you target Tel Aviv or Haifa, instantly, like in few minutes, they will bomb or commit a massacre in Beirut or in a populated place. Till now, we didn't see the retaliation from the Israelis.
Let me add another fold to this, because yesterday, during a cabinet session of the Israeli government, the chief of staff of the Israeli army, Eyal Samir, said that the military is going to collapse in on itself because of the issues they are having with the recruitment, especially with the draft of the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox Jews who are, essentially disregarding the call-up orders. Now I think it's like a year and a half that has been going on. So the chief of staff he's saying the reserves will not last. I am raising 10 red flags. And in a short time, the army will not be prepared for its routine mission. The reservists will not last. This is kind of the reality. Well, not kind of. This is completely the reality of the Israeli army at this point.
Exactly, and I think the statement continues, or the news that was released, if I'm not mistaken, by Channel 12, it was leaked in the statement. They continue and they say that what the head of the army said was totally ignored by Netanyahu and the cabinet, as if he didn't say it, which is also the 11th
It makes sense.
red flag. You know what I mean? So just to explain for people, the Israeli army, of course, many of them that are operating now, because of course they have the south front, they have the north front, and of course they have the Iranians. So they asked for many reserves, and many reserves are fighting currently or engaging in wars. And what he's saying is that the reservists are not like actual soldiers, and they might collapse or they might leave or whatever what may happen. In addition to that, the Israelis, they have problems since the beginning of 2023, as Esteban mentioned, the Haridim. They have a very, very big conflict inside Israel, which is that the Haridim, which is the ultra religious group in Israel. They don't serve, they don't work, they do nothing. All what they do is to read the Torah. And many Israelis are shifting for that because they don't want to fight, for instance. They will tell you, I just pray for you. And for them, praying is more important to become a soldier and defend Israel. And now there are thousands upon thousands of them. And the real split inside the Israeli community is that these people should be part of the army, because they take money, they don't work, and now their population is increasing. So this is dangerous for them, according to them, for the defensive the defensive strategy of the Israelis. Because imagine that if the new generation grows up and see that the soldiers are dying, okay, and in some point in my life I should go to Gaza, at some point I have to fight Hezbollah, for instance, at some point I have to defend against the Iranian missiles. Nobody will fight. And of course, the Israeli community, we have to say, they are spoiled. They consider themselves like high-tier people, and they are spoiled. They are not ready to fight as before. Of course, their technological advantages, and of course the alliance of Israel keep them standing on their feet, but this can't continue forever.
They're going to try to. Because the Haredim thing is such a huge issue.
Yeah.
We have talked about it in the podcast before. I don't think we really need to get deep into that, but of course, because the reserve forces of the Israeli army have been stretched thin for 2.5 years now at this point almost, right? And things are just keep getting worse, and it's not like they really have a magic solution against Hezbollah. I feel like they, if anything, Israeli observers, analysts, journalists, and even military leaders are even more shocked at what the Lebanese resistance has managed to do over the past 4 weeks.
And also, if you want to stay talking about the internal politics of Israel, today Olmert, who was the prime minister of Israel, he said today, attacking Iran and thinking that anyone can destroy Iran is a very big mistake. And he said, meaning prepare for the retaliation, because Iran will not go away. And he talked about this, which is usually a statement we don't see from the Israelis. You know what I mean? During war, and especially against Iran, they are all in.
Because Jeffrey Epstein's roommate, Ehud Barak, he also said something similar a few days ago. So it's
and Banat also, but not blunt like this. You know what I mean? Of course, they would love to criticize Netanyahu, because for them, one of them will be the next prime minister. But what Olmert said today is a huge. And sorry, I have to thank also Billy Clifton. Thank you, and we have to also to thank our fan who's always watching us, Golnara. Thank you. And also we have a couple more from Ramos. And sorry, that's it. Yeah. Thank you all.
So, Charmaine, do you think we should move into our little into our exclusive information that we received today?
Yeah, it's super important, and because it's only the Cradle that had the story, it's important for others, for our viewers and audiences certainly to know about it. We spoke with an Iranian intelligence official this morning who told us that the Iranians are preparing a strong response against the UAE due to the active role it has played in the ongoing US-Israeli war against it. Okay, so this was specific about the UAE. And just as an aside, I was just reading something where you guys let me know, because, you know, there's so much news all the time now. It's crazy. But I just read something that Trump had specified that the Saudis, the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, and the Bahrainis. Yeah, Trump says Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain were 100% involved with us in the war against Iran. Funny he doesn't mention the UAE specifically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at any rate, that was said, and then but the Iranian intelligence official told us that the UAE specifically, that there are plans underway to target the UAE, that this decision has been made at the leadership level to end a weeks-long tolerance towards this country. Okay, so they further went on to say, in addition to U.S. military barracks and bases in the UAE, which were targeted in Iran's defensive attacks, the Emiratis also provided some of their own air bases to the U.S. to be used in these attacks. And Iran considers the UAE a foothold for Israel in the region. And the source adds that Abu Dhabi has carried out misleading operations against Oman and other countries, which to me sounds like a reference to the false flag operations pinned on Iran. We've always blamed Israel for this, but here's a new twist. In Iran, okay, this source is saying Abu Dhabi has carried out misleading operations against Oman and other countries. Mentions Oman specifically. We know that there were several things hit in Oman where people went, wait, why Oman? You know, and now we understand that it may not be Israel involved in all of these false flag attacks, but it may be Israel's main Arab dog proxy, the UAE. So our source goes on to tell us that another aspect of cooperation between the UAE and Iran's adversaries is the use of AI infrastructure provided in the Emirates to enhance their targeting database. The Emiratis supplied the US and Israel with data on Iranian figures and targets, placing it in the position of an aggressor. So interesting. This is an exact quote, by the way. I'm not,
paraphrasing.
So our source adds that the targeting of Iranian ships and private boats, as well as some coastal areas of Iran, launched from the UAE territory, signals a strong impending Iranian response. The Iranians have struck the UAE in retaliation for things, but what we're hearing is what sounds like plans to do a big attack on the UAE against, maybe, we don't know, because, right, what have we been hearing? Like, you know, Trump is saying, oh, we're giving you 48 hours, now we're giving you 5 days, but all along they continue to target Iranian facilities, right? And I was reading somewhere that potential Israeli targets now for the Iranians are Israeli power plants and substations, gas platforms, oil and gas terminals, nuclear energy facilities, oil refineries, and ports. So I think Iran has some soft power it needs to use in the Persian Gulf after all of this. It may be that Israel and the UAE become the next big targets of Iran's activities. It may be that they're collecting Trump's hits during this time that he suggests goodwill and, you know, an extended period, etc. But still hitting Iran, right, or allowing Israel, etc. And they're taking stock, and they're going to hit in kind, but in a much larger and more definitive way than we've seen.
And it's interesting, Charmaine, because we need to add a couple of things to the information that we at the Cradle reported exclusively and are providing to you here right now. So please make sure to hit that like button. I mean it. Please hit that like button. Yesterday, Karim put it on screen while you were talking. The UAE ambassador to the US wrote an opinion column for the Wall Street Journal in which he rallies against Iran. The UAE is standing up against Iran, and at no point is Israel mentioned in this op-ed. Nevertheless, at the same time, yesterday, and I do not remember his name, but it was I think it was a security source actually that spoke with the IRIB, the Iranian state broadcaster, who said Iran has drafted plans to seize the coast of the UAE and Bahrain in the event of a ground invasion, however you want to call it, right? Like an attempt at a ground invasion by the US, which it feels like is imminent at this point, especially because there were reports earlier today saying that the Pentagon has already presented plans to Trump for what is being described as a final blow operation against Iran. So, we are all, the world itself is trapped in this escalation ladder. And we are getting the messages, right, of what's going to happen next. And especially when it comes from the Iranians, they have already put their money where their mouth is. Because everything they said they were going to do before the war, they have done. And now we are hearing about these other steps, which I actually want to hear your opinion in particular about possibly seizing the coastal areas of the UAE and Bahrain. We might be seeing that by next week, as early as next week.
I mean, all of these things are on the table, right? The Americans talk about things being on the table, but I often think, and I think some of our viewers definitely agree with this, that the names bandied around, like the Hemorrhaging Islands, for instance, could be just a diversionary tactic that one should really be looking elsewhere. I will defer to the Iranians to know and have intelligence to know what may be planned for their territories. What's become clear, and you and I talked about this yesterday, how the Gulf countries seem to be divided in their view on whether they should join the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran or absolutely stay out of it, with the Saudis sitting somewhere, undeclared, I guess. But there's definitely a lot of, the UAE is one of the countries that we've consistently been hearing want to participate or are prepared to participate in attacks on Iran, which is probably why the Iranians now, our intelligence official who spoke to the Cradle exclusively, says that the UAE is, among these plans. Don't also forget the Abu Musa and Tomb Islands, right? The three islands that the UAE claims for itself that Iran has had since 1971, I think. And then Kesh Island, again, strategic Iranian islands, we'll see. But these attacks will come from somewhere. And this is where I think, I don't doubt that Iran has this because, don't forget, Iran has, for many years now, had a space program and has put satellites into space. And all we've ever heard is people disparage the Iranian efforts. But I think Iran probably has a next level kind of information gathering activity on where everything is being launched from, whether that is Iranian data or gathered by Iranians, or if it is maybe this is where the help comes from, the Chinese, the Russians, and others who may or may not have more capabilities. We don't know at this point. But Iran is now determining who's hitting them and how we're going to respond. There is a member of the Iranian, a very senior commander in the Iranian Council of Defense. Remember, we talked about this. This was a new construct after the new National Security Council had been set up, headed by Larijani. There was a further construct that Iranians had created, the Council of Defense, which were no political figures whatsoever, only operational military figures, right? Who had the right to make decisions on the spot with no discussion with political figures. And so he's a member of this, Mr. Ahmadian, and he tweeted just this week, for years we've been awaiting the Americans' entry into the designated points. And for over 2 decades, We've been training with asymmetrical warfare strategy for this very moment. Now we have just one message for the American soldiers: come closer. Okay, so all very entertaining. This back and forth between.
I mean, it's yeah. I mean, there's something else that I want to discuss, but first I want to bring something up. I want to put something on the screen right now, and
Ali
it's
Akbar Ahmadian, just to tell you who that was. Go ahead.
so this is a shipping observer, right? And they put out this, I think, yesterday. And this is comparing the first 23 days of February 2026 to the first 23 days of March 2026 in regard to the crude oil exports of Gulf nations. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. The way that Kuwait, in particular, has dropped 72% of their exports, Saudi Arabia 52%, the southern exports of Iraq 76%, the northern exports 49%. Today, Iraq announced that they have to essentially slash production because all of their where they keep the fuel are full. Iran has actually surged by 4%. Oman actually, surprisingly, has surged by 7%, and Russia as well has surged by 14%. I mean, this is already the new status quo, no? Like Iran dictates who passes and who doesn't through the Strait of Hormuz. And actually, that brings me to the talk of a present, right? The talk of gifts, of presents. Iran gave me a huge present, said Donald Trump yesterday. It was so big, I can't even speak about it. He was,
Do we have any of the video to play? Because I think we should play it.
I have them all, yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The beautiful presents.
The beautiful, beautiful present that he was talking about.
1 minute. Continue, Sharmeen. Yalla.
Okay. So, I mean, of course, Trump hinted that, wait, there's an echo. Trump hinted that he has not only a special gift that Iran gave him, okay, as though Iran was desperate to gain his ear, but that Iran did this as a goodwill gesture. And of course, he says this in context of saying that Iran is the one that wants to speak. And then he goes on to say that they did this to show us that they're the right Iranians we're speaking to, meaning we can have a discussion on the phone and then they can move things on the ground. He's never spoken to any Iranian. His advisors, his negotiators have never spoken to any Iranians since February 28th. But go ahead, play. Do you have the video? Yeah?
Sometimes the platform doesn't help us out. In the meantime, I want to thank everyone who's here, and of course, reminding, honestly, hit that like button. It's not fun to be reminded, you guys, to always be hitting that like button, but it's just because it's very important. Yeah. And while Karim finds that, and I mean,
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that regardless of what Trump claims, we have already seen that Iran is willing to open the Strait of Hormuz for those who don't come at them with any animosity.
And I mean, he lies so much, and we know there are no negotiations going on. So I was like, what's this about? What is this I haven't heard? And really, in fact, what it looks like is Pakistani ships transporting energy, right? Oil to that the Iranians allowed out. Now, they would have done that directly with the Pakistanis.
Let's hear it.
Substantial talks going on with respect to Iran with the right people. You know, I told you about a present, right? Steve, can I reveal the present? You can do anything you want. Thank you. They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil, 8 boats, 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And I didn't think much about it. And then I watched the news, and they said, a very good anchor, actually. Happened to be Fox. But I watched it, and he said, something's unusual happening. There are 8 boats that are going right up the middle of the Hormuz Strait. 8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were right, and they were real. And I think they were Pakistani flagged. And I said, well, I guess we're dealing with the right people. And actually, they then apologized for something they said, and they said, we're going to send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats. All right. I hope I haven't screwed up your negotiations, but I thought it was appropriate to say, because I did taunt you
that's enough.
the other day
It's
by saying they're going to get.
It's painful.
That is enough. That is seriously,
It's so
Yeah,
bad.
it's
Let me read you just a quote, actually, because I think it pairs perfectly. Because this is an Arab diplomat who spoke with the Times of Israel. And he said the limited impact of the present explains why Trump avoided specifying exactly what it was. That of course, means yesterday. Now we know it was apparently 8 tankers that were already on the way out of the Strait of Hormuz.
Not only that, if you check, I sent a screenshot of a tweet by tankertrackers.com.
Yes, it's in the chat. It's in our chat.
Yeah, you can just pull it up. So they're subtweeting. They're subtweeting a tweet on Trump on his gift from Iran. 8 boats of oil allowed to sail. Are you putting it up, Kenny?
I think you can. We can read it because it takes a
I'll
while
just
to
read
load.
it. Tankertrackers.com Inc. says nothing new here, actually. It had to do with the tankers which Iran allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, such as the Pakistan flag tankers. That was the gift. We all knew about this already. So just, I mean, you know, he hears a bunch of tankers are going through. He pretends that the Iranians are trying to like soften him up and announces that this was a gift to him. The man is insane. I can't even. And let me explain. So we're hearing that there's genuinely no negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, direct or indirect. That in fact, what's happening is there are mediating countries, right? The Egyptians, the Turks, the Pakistanis, Omanis, etc. And what happens is the U.S., I mean, I don't know if this is Witkoff and Kushner only, but certainly them, keep sending terms to these intermediaries, right? And I'm sure these intermediaries are sending them to Iran. And Iran says no at every single turn. That is not negotiations. That is not talks. This is Americans throwing anything they can think of, you know, at their problem and hoping something will stick. There's no negotiations.
There's no.
None.
So, you know, there's this, I don't know if you guys heard, because I think this is from today, right, Karim, this video, because he was speaking earlier today. And he also said one part of it in which he said they didn't give us the island. When he was talking about the UK, and he says they didn't give us the island of Ireland. Or he says they didn't give us Ireland.
The island.
And he just keeps going with the idea. I mean,
I'm proud of him because he's pronouncing Hormuz correctly. So
at least one thing.
And he said that the island that became famous. Regarding the talks, we have.
I didn't get that. Can you explain?
He was talking about Diego Garcia. He forgot the name of Diego Garcia.
He tried to say island, and he said Ireland.
I thought he was talking about Ireland. He wasn't. Okay.
No, he was talking about Diego Garcia. He was referring to the missile range that Iran has, and he was using it as pretext to say we don't know what Iran has.
He couldn't have even tried and said like the Pedro Sanchez Island or something, and then he just said island.
He was afraid to.
No, he actually said. He didn't even say island. He said Ireland. That's actually, you know, like he was like, it made it sound like the UK had at one point offered to give him Ireland. And he just kept going with the thought, even though he meant something completely different. It's truly astonishing.
Ireland is better than Epstein, man. So regarding the talks, there is like not negotiations, of course. There's indirect talks about 15 points that the American proposed. And from the Iranian media, it's clear that the Iranians refused it. And this is according to the, let me put it, to the Pakistani foreign minister, he said there has been unnecessary speculation in the media regarding peace talks to end ongoing conflict in the Middle East. In reality, US-Iran indirect talks are taking place through messages being relayed by Pakistan. In this context, the United States has shared 15 points being deliberated upon by Iran. So that's what's happening. And there's a message of 15 points that the United States handed over to Pakistan, and Pakistan handed over to Iran. That's it. So I don't know where's the negotiations.
Like they have sent over other points as well.
Which is normal.
Yeah, you have intermediaries, but there's no talks going on. The Pakistanis are being generous in the way they describe this. The Iranian answer is no. And the Iranian answer is also public, that these are the 6 conditions we have for us to stop. And we've discussed those at length,
I mean, if these two showed up at your door and asked to negotiate with you, what would you say?
Dumb and Dumber.
Oh my God, man.
This picture, I can't get enough of this picture. It's like my favorite thing this week. It's amazing.
Wow. Unfortunately, these two people are making money from the ongoing war in the
genocide,
region, unfortunately. And here we have a super chat from Tia Joa. I read it. They are saying she's saying that Russia launched 16 low Earth broadband orbit designed to rival Starlink. I think 16 is not enough. They should launch thousands as Starlink. I think this is in the early stage. I haven't read a lot about it, but I think it's not that fast or that easy that 16 satellites can provide such an intel to the Iranians. That's upon what I read. I'm not an expert in this stuff. It could be intel for Iran, maybe if the war lasted for maybe more months and more years.
Another interesting thing came out earlier today, because of course this war doesn't really begin and end in West Asia. This is part of a broader pattern, and one of the peoples that have really been suffering for the past month is of course Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Earlier today, I think it was the Washington Post that reported that the Pentagon is seriously considering shifting quote unquote military assistance that was already approved and about to head out to Ukraine to West Asia. So, Zelensky left with even less. I think he was in Egypt, right, today, Karim, or was he? No, in the Gulf, I think he went to...
he's in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so he's in Saudi. And now, of course, we're hearing that the Pentagon is apparently in such dire need of munitions for the final blow that they're leaving Ukraine even more exposed than it already is.
Yeah, exactly. It was clear that Trump is trying to not equalize. How can we say it? He's trying to play the card of Ukraine against Ukraine, because for him he don't want Russians to give intel to the Iranians. That was very clear. I think this was mentioned more than 10 days ago. And in the same time, the Americans and the Gulf countries, as we saw in the video, they were talking about that they need Ukraine's help in countering Iranian drones. And we know that Ukraine has been fighting for 4 years against Russia, and many experts, military experts, they say now in this era, Ukraine and the Russians are the best 2 countries in the world in manufacturing and countering drone attacks. So, and now we see him in Saudi Arabia. And I think that's so, I don't know, he's so puppet, man. His country is being used by the United States every now and then. And today also Trump talked about it. He said if NATO and Europe doesn't help us, including Germany, he was very pissed about Germany and about the UK. He said, I will not help Ukraine. So for him, Ukraine is nothing. It's like just a cheap card that he can play. And in the same time, the U.S. Army and the Gulf countries asked Zelensky for aid, and I think they will start delivering, because he had today he had this official visit to Saudi Arabia, because apparently the Iranian drones, they have no solution. Iran has many drones, and they are hitting the targets. And I know the hype of the war is lower now regarding satellite imagery, but I can assure our viewers that till now, these drones are accurately targeting facilities and radars and important points in the Gulf countries. And these attacks are concentrated in 13 bases, mainly in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Jordan. And of course, the north of Iraq has been taken care of by the Iraqi resistance.
Iraq also today, I think, dropped the number of barrels it can export significantly, or announced it. And Trump just said, we need $2 billion a day to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He gives us gifts every single day. We need $2 billion a day to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, at which a U.S. senator fires back. It was already open before the war. So what the hell was the point of the whole thing? Yeah. I mean, really,
yeah, it's insane.
The Americans are giving the Iranian answers back to Trump right now.
Not only that, and I can't wrap my head around when he said 8 and 10 ships were given as a gift. I don't know how he thinks. Maybe he thinks that Pakistan is the 51 state, and because Iran allowed Pakistani ships, they didn't only allow Pakistani, they allowed Indian and Pakistani ships also. And one more country, I think Russia and China also, that's what they said in their official statement. They said they named these 4 countries, and Turkey, sorry. I think also Turkey. So I don't know, maybe he thought these are like states in the United States. So he thought that I don't know, or the antenna in Pakistan played a very big game on him. He told
something is obviously happening, and here I want to ask Charmaine something, but let me just mention quickly that more and more nations are implementing rationing measures, emergency declarations. They are, essentially saying, well, preparing, right, for the inevitable. Because no matter how many lies Trump can tell in a day, at some point reality is going to catch up, not just to him, but to everyone, and prices are about to shoot all the way to the sky. And the repercussions are already being felt. And this is where my question enters, Charmaine, because I think 2 days ago, the president of the Philippines gave an interview to Bloomberg, and he floated the idea that he is ready to reopen talks with Beijing on joint oil and gas development in the disputed South China Seas. These are talks that his own government unilaterally ended in 2022 to pivot toward Washington. We know in particular that the Philippines is, I think, the only country in Southeast Asia where, when asked the question, would you support a war against China? I think the Philippines is the only country that leans more towards the yes, according to recent polls. So now he himself, the president of the Philippines, is saying, you know what, the things are so bad that we need to reopen the talks with China. So, what do you make of all this? It really is a case of, China does nothing and wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Charmaine, let me hear from Charmaine, if you don't mind, Kelly.
I mean, we were kind of talking about this earlier yesterday as well. What do I keep saying? Like a broken record, perception is 100% of politics. It's an old adage. It is so important as to explain what's happening today. The perception of the collapse of U.S. hegemony happening before our very eyes, between Trump's daily comments and the Iranian daily comments, and what we're seeing. And don't forget, the Western media is not showing us much of this, right? So what we're able to gauge from this conflict so far is just punching a hole through the perception of U.S. hegemony every day. And now, had this happened, 20 years ago, people would be sitting silently waiting for U.S. orders. But the world has sort of burst open, right, with options, with the rise of multipolarity. And it's not like the BRICS is some big substantial thing right now. But you can see that the movements to create new mechanisms, new institutions, new trade flows, new corridors, new currency or methods of exchanging currency. All of this every year seems to accelerate, and Trump is accelerating that process even further. It is making a lot of countries who felt like, and the Philippines definitely, with the new guy Marcos that came back in and pulled a number on his electorate really, and went after Duterte, went after the guy he was like all sweet with, who is in the Netherlands right now, I think, in The Hague, under detention. So the Philippines is doing what a lot of other countries are doing. They literally can smell the fear in the American waters. They understand that China is sitting tight, acting like the grown-up in the room, and that China is unlikely to militarily strike Taiwan, the Philippines, South Korea, Japan. Because that's not how they operate. There are 1,000 tentacles behind the scene, of diplomacy, soft power happening when China even issues a threat towards Japan or to Taiwan. You know what I mean? To mitigate the harsh words and to try to find a solution. So I think that's what we're seeing at the Philippines. What was it? We announced a week or so ago that Malaysia was the first country to break its trade deal signed with Trump.
Over the
because
tariffs,
of the U.S. courts, coming down against Trump's tariffs being illegal, but that was weeks before. But this new, hegemony hemorrhage that we're seeing daily, emboldened Malaysia to step up, and do this publicly, emboldening other ASEAN countries to follow suit. And now we see the Philippines, rock solid with the Americans since Marcos came in, etc. Now. Testing those waters itself. So I think we can see the world turning and really.
It is. And in particular, I think the situation in Asia is because they are going to feel most of the brunt. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen these images of the huge lines for the petrol stations. I think these are from India that went viral recently. And also, South Korea, right? South Korea, another historic ally of the U.S., who was not at all happy about the movement of the THAAD batteries being taken out of there. The troops that are en route right now to to launch the ground invasion are being sent from the Pacific Theater, right? I think from Singapore is where those ships were. So you are seeing this ship happening right now, in particular on a near daily basis. Karim, you had some thoughts when I asked the question about the Philippines.
Yeah, it's the same thought, Yani. If a country has like even small percent, 15% of sovereignty, that's how they should act, because all these countries are fully backed, and they also support the policy of the United States, because in their mind, and not only in their mind, Yani, in the recent history shows us that you will be safe if you're with the Americans. You will be fed if you are with the Americans. But currently in 2026 and prior to that also, and in recently, this is not the case. This is completely the opposite. The countries that are with the United States are suffering. The Gulf countries is the best example ever. Ukraine is the second example. And now, of course, what's happening in Asia regarding Philippines, regarding South Korea and Japan, which will suffer a lot if the war continues just for 2 weeks, because Japan is like hungry country for energy, and since the 60s they lived a very 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 high demand energy lifestyle. Meaning, all the lights, they have their transportation, airplanes, everything, and of course, manufacturing all these cars and all these inventions that they made. Every single country that is like this is energy hungry, like Germany also. That's why Germany is so pissed. Nobody thought that Germany or the new chancellor of Germany will talk like this. He says, this is not our war. We have nothing to do with this war. This war should end, for instance.
No, they
this
said
is insane.
It's illegal. He said it was illegal.
It's illegal. But these countries, because they know what's right and what's wrong. They know they were with the United States for specific points. For instance, now these points the United States can't fulfill it. If you are the UK, for instance, and UK has no, or Japan has no oil, what can the United States do? You know what I mean? Or the Gulf countries that we saw gave trillions of dollars, or at least they said they want to give trillions of dollars to Trump. What they are facing now, what they are facing is terrible. Yani everybody is mocking the Gulf countries. Still, till now, there is no king or emir or head of state in these countries went to the TV and talked and explained the point of view of his country, for instance. That's one. And I also want to thank Nitida. Your comment made me laugh. I just want to give like a real story that happened 3 days ago. Of course, we have a group in our at the Cradle, and what happened is that Trump, I forgot which one because he writes a lot. He made like this long truth social, and it was all in caps lock. And the moment I saw it, I read it. You know, this man is insane. So what I did, I went to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT, is the person writing this is insane? Is a normal person who writes this? And the funny part, one of this true story. The funny part is when I took a screenshot, I went back and I saw the other one, you don't know, I saw Seema, and the other one thought the same as me, and they put screenshots of what ChatGPT told them about that tweet. So this man, yes, he's insane, and 100% the idea of Iran, for him, Iran, the poor country, Iran, the uncivilized, Iran, the terrorist country, come and wins United States, the greatest country in the world, the emperor, the ruler of the universe, Trump. Of course, he will be insane 100%.
I wanna thank very briefly some of the super chats we've gotten. Thank you to everyone. In particular, I want to thank this is a friend of mine, El Ecuañol, Jacobo Garcia. Thank you so much. Gracias por tu sintonía, Jacobo. Yeah, I don't know, Charmaine, you were going to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I want to circle around and talk a little bit about the legalities of this. I think today is our feature is, it should be on the homepage now of thecradle.co, on the legalities of this war. It's very clear. There's, you don't need to be a legal expert to know that the U.S. and Israeli aggression against Iran was illegal under international law. It was just illegal, plain out. There's nobody. I mean, maybe some people don't want to say it, but now we're hearing the president of Germany say it, and others are starting to say it because it's really been detrimental to them, right? So, so here's the thing. In the article, I think there's some description of this. This is on the role of third countries in an aggression. Okay, so for those of y'all are saying, why would Iran? What right does Iran have? Or it's illegal for Iran to hit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, right? We have heard that discourse, correct? So on the role of third countries in an aggression, in 1974, UN General Assembly Resolution 3314 was passed. This resolution addresses this exact kind of issue that we're facing today. Is Iran's retaliation on Gulf countries illegal or not? When a third country, meaning the Gulf states, allows its territory to be used by another state to launch an attack, it crosses a legal line from neutral bystander to accomplice, all right? Under this UN General Assembly Resolution 3314, this specific scenario is addressed directly as an act of aggression. So that means if country A, all right, the UAE, allows country B, the US, to use its airfields, borders, or ports to invade country C, Iran, country A is also committing, by law, an act of aggression, even though its own soldiers never fired a shot. Okay, the legal implications for the third country is very severe and serious under international law. It loses neutrality. Okay, it is immediately in a position of aggressor. The state bears responsibility. Okay, the country that let Israeli missiles fly over its airspace, it loses its state responsibility. They can be held, or the state becomes responsible, rather. It can be held legal responses for damages and reparations in international courts. As that country, all right, the Gulf country, are considered a co-perpetrator of the illegal use of force. That means if, people think Iran is shaking down Arab Gulf countries for reparations that perhaps the US refuses to give Iran, right? They have every right to. Any of these countries, neighboring countries that allowed the use of their airspace, their ground, their facilities for a foreign aggressor army to attack Iran illegally are liable. That means reparations and to the full extent of the law. They are a co-perpetrator. Just want to clear that up for anyone who had any misgivings or confusion about this issue. Please read our article today by Aidan Simordon to dive deeper into the legal situation, and send to your friends or others who maybe have a different idea, because we're all learning through this process, are we not?
Yeah, exactly. And a shout out to Aidan, a great writer, a great analyst.
And a lawyer, by
and a lawyer. He speaks from knowledge. He speaks from he knows what he's talking about, to say the least. There's only one last thing I want to mention, guys, just because I feel like we're talking about international law. We're talking about the effects of this war, like in the broader sense across the world, not just the shortages, but also the changes we're witnessing. Today, the president of Belarus visited North Korea for the first time. He visited Pyongyang. And, he took pictures with Kim Jong-un. There was a great video of Kim Jong-un just like grabbing a gun that Lukashenko gave him, and just kind of going.
Do we have a video of that? I haven't seen it.
Yes,
would be really cool.
And let me just read you a quote of what Lukashenko said in Pyongyang while Karim finds that video. He says, "In the modern realities of global transformation, at a time when the world's major powers openly ignore and violate the norms of international law, independent countries must cooperate more closely and consolidate their efforts aimed at protecting their sovereignty and improving the well-being of their citizens." It's very clear that to have, the leader of Belarus, a very close ally of Vladimir Putin, visit the capital of North Korea, a very close ally of China, at a time in which the entire, there's a tectonic shift in the balance of power due to the war that the U.S. launched illegally, everything else that you just said, Charmaine. It can kind of go under the radar, but it's also of great significance. It really is of great significance.
It is, like Mark Carney hopping over to China, and now Canadian citizens having visa-free travel there for 30 days or less, right? So a lot is shifting, and of course, too many headlines every day to pick on each one of them. Do you want to show? Do you have the video, Karim?
Yes, I'm searching for a better quality. خلاص, I will put the one that I have.
Put the one you have.
I can't, me with the HD. Yalla. I don't approve the video quality.
If it's not 8K, it doesn't pass the Karim Shami test. Please hit that like button in the meantime. Please hit that like. Let's not keep it on screen too long, Karim, if you don't mind, because the weapons. I just remember that YouTube doesn't like weapons on their stream.
Okay, no. Yeah. We got the image. He's appealing. Kim Jong-un is appealing to all kinds of people. Never thought about him yesterday. It's very, very interesting. Did you want to say something about this, Karim, before I?
No, not about this, but I want to say something very important that people maybe don't understand what's really happening in the Gulf and in the Strait of Hormuz. And this picture, not this one, of course. This is the program did this, okay. So, and this picture explains what's happening. So, this is the Strait of Hormuz, okay. And if we can see the ships that are still able to enter and leave the Strait of Hormuz, of course, after communicating with the Iranians, are passing through this exact place, which is sorry, my mouse doesn't show. If you look at the top, there's like blue dots. These are the ships passing, and Iran is forcing the ships to pass through these two small islands that Iran owns. So this is what's happening. The ships are passing near the shores of Iran, so Iran can check or collect the money or accept or whatever they do. So I just want to point that out. Yani the ships that are passing, they are not passing like this or without Iran knowing, or because there's no way. As you see, this is the data, this is the real data, and it shows that the ships are passing through these islands. And I just want to give more fact because I love facts. Sharmeen described this one of these islands, and she said that the UAE wants these islands back. I just want to say that yes, these islands were with the UAE, and they gifted them to Iran, and then when the revolution started or occurred, they demanded the islands back because they didn't like Khamenei or something like this. So, and now they are trying to like tell all the Arabs, and they make all these programs and saying Iran occupied these islands. Well, in matter of fact, is that the UAE, because their bosses before Israel was Shah of Iran, they gifted these islands, and now they want them back. Just I want to give this fact.
Okay, just back to that sort of like Gulf scenario. It's very clear that the Israelis are pushing the agenda of U.S. troops. We've talked about this. Landing there, they need an escalation. They understand now, the Israelis, that regime change is not going to be possible. They brought in people that they're more fearful of than the Iranian establishment that existed before. Correct? The IRGC is in command here, so the Israeli thinking now is do something that deprives Iran of its ability to export oil, right? Because we mentioned 2 days ago, I think, that Iran is now exporting more oil than it did before February 28th, correct? Mm-hmm. At a much higher price, correct? So it's a considerable,
yes, of course,
gift to the Iranians. The Israelis want to cut that. And they want to take away Iran's ability to threaten maritime traffic. Okay, so what does that mean? That means they're probably pushing heavily for some disruption in the Gulf, which is also ostensibly what Trump wants, to take the Strait of Hormuz back or out of Iranian control. But here's where we look at things like concepts like escalation dominance, right? So the Americans and Israelis can lob a shit ton of missiles at those areas and those islands and whatever, right? But what then happens? It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Then all shipping will come to a standstill. Do you know what I mean? And then who are people going to blame? Not the Iranians. Are going to blame the Israelis and Americans. We were just starting to open
except the Emiratis.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, if the Americans do something foolhardy in an island in the area, specifically of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz and the islands that Iran controls and owns there, the net result will be a closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Again, we have been saying it is open. The Iranians have been saying it is open, but to whom we allow through. If it closes completely, this can be 10 times worse. Everyone blame Washington and Tel Aviv for this. So I feel like right now they're cornered,
Yeah, they are. But, I think in any case, tomorrow the markets will close at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And after that, I do get the sense that it's going to be quite the escalation we're about to see. I had the same feeling before the attack in Tehran the week before. And with Erdogan and Ruth, no need to recap all of that. But in any case, thank you to everyone who joined us today. I think we can wrap up for this episode. If you haven't yet hit the like button, make sure to do it, please. It really, really matters a lot. We need all of your help in getting this video out to as many viewers as possible. Subscribe to our channel also, please. And after this stream is over, it is also very helpful if you leave a comment. That also helps with the algorithm if you leave a comment below. And of course, a special thanks to our Patreons. And in the description below, as I say at the beginning of the program every day, you can find a link that will take you directly to our Patreon page where you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. We really need your support. And again, I appreciate everyone who has already become a Patreon. And for us, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you, of course, to Karim and to Charmin as well.
Thank you all. See you tomorrow at the same time. Bye-bye.
Over 4 years in, and despite all the censorship, website attacks, and war across West Asia, the Cradle hit 1 million monthly readers in 2025. And we couldn't be more grateful. Up until this moment, you've had access to all our work for free. Over 30,000 articles, including investigations, analysis, interviews, news content, videos, podcasts, and more. All of this without paywalls, without harassing you and hunting you down for donations. But now it's do or die. December 31st, 2026 is the deadline for the Cradle to become completely reader funded, because that's the model all media should have. When readers pay for your content, it means media outlets live or die based on whether they're producing reliable, intellectually stimulating information and analyses that simply isn't available elsewhere.
يعني يلا